completed by year 2052. The second phase would lower the quarry floor and deepen the quarry to an elevation of 1750, which is about a 100-foot elevation difference. This would conclude in approximately 2062. The final phase would lower the quarry elevation to 1650, completed in 2072, which again, overall deepening of 200 feet. In addition, the quarry itself would be a wash operation, basically relocating all of the washing operations currently located in the city of Willits to the site. The project also includes the establishment of asphalt concrete batch plants to be constructed on a 3.5-acre pad, and these facilities are going to be located south of Black Bart Drive, approximately 2,000 feet west of the intersection of Highway 101 and Black Bart. The concrete and asphalt plants would be accessed from an internal quarry property roadway with no direct access out onto Black Bart Drive. All access will be provided via Highway 101 using the existing driveway connection with some minor modifications. Highway 101 is to be modified, widened to include a northbound left turn deceleration lane. The center lane is to be extended to the north to allow for areas of acceleration for northbound traffic leaving the quarry. Okay, at this point, there is no center lane that allows for this. As far as the ordinance amendment, the site is within the rangeland zoning district. Currently, the rangeland district allows extractive uses such as the quarry with the approval of a major use permit and a reclamation plan. Currently, the extractive use type section of the code allows some limited aggregate processing of the sites, which involves crushing and screening, which is what the operation currently has. Currently, asphalt concrete plants are not permitted under this provision. This proposed ordinance amendment would result in the addition of the mineral processing combining district to the zoning ordinance. If this is enacted, it would provide individuals to seek a rezoning, adding this MP combining district to their properties, which would allow for such facilities to occur during, and I emphasize, during the mining operation. Okay. Once this mining ceases, the processing facilities, which include the asphalt and the concrete batch facilities, would have to cease as well. So again, this proposed ordinance amendment would modify 3 chapters of the zoning ordinance and add a new chapter. In conclusion, the board would take public comment on this EIR today and provide its comments to the EIR consultant on this draft EIR. And again, Leonard Charles will now provide the board with an overview of the EIR findings. Thank you.
Good morning. Just a brief thing to follow up on both what Ray and Nash said. The EIR is charged with finding the impacts of a proposed project as it's proposed. If the impacts reach a certain level of significance, which are called the significance criteria, then we're obligated to find mitigation measures that mitigate those impacts, which is what this EIR does. This EIR is neither a justification for the project nor an attack on it. So, and I know there were comments at the last meeting as showing why there was no need for this project, but that's not the role of the EIR. Our role is to assess a project that's been proposed. The other thing is that we identify alternatives to the project. So if the board decided that it didn't want to approve a project or didn't want to turn down a project, it has 7 alternatives that are assessed in this environmental impact report. So just briefly, the overview of the impacts. The construction of the processing facilities will require a large fill to make a flat platform for this. The EIR addresses that, finds as long as those fill is built per typical geotechnical requirements that it could be done. The EIR includes a full range of erosion control measures to control erosion, both from that construction and from the mining itself. In addition, it has a complete water quality control program that ensures that the water coming off of this site will not exceed the level of whatever dust or any other thing in the water that comes off that site now. So it won't degrade from baseline conditions. It addresses flooding. The one thing it does do is there's a potential impact of the mine going too deep and potentially affecting the fork of Forsyth Creek there, and we've got a mitigation measure that doesn't allow that mine to proceed below the creek level unless there is additional work done to show that it wouldn't affect that creek once it gets down to that level where they can do some additional testing. In biological resources, it removes about 440 oak trees. We have a complete replanting program and conservation easement to mitigate that. Again, the impacts to salmonids in the creek should be mitigated because the water quality won't degrade past what it is now. Now, the project obviously, particularly the asphalt plant, will emit emissions of pollutants into the air. It's been fully assessed that with the mitigation measures in there that the emissions would not exceed the significance criteria used to determine significance both for air quality and for toxics. Similarly with noise, the project will generate noise, but it was determined that the noise levels at the nearest sensitive receptors would be well below county standards and wouldn't constitute a significant impact. Visually is where the four remaining significant impacts are to this project. The effects from views from Highway 101, from Black Bart Drive, from viewpoints on Ridgewood Ranch, and then the nighttime views, because this asphalt plant can operate at night, are all found to be significant adverse impacts for which there's no suitable mitigation measure. Public services, those are all addressed in there. They're not that significant. We looked at the land use as far as the overall effect of this new zoning district, and reviewing all the mines in the county, that there are only 3 existing mines that would meet this criteria, namely be in a rangeland zoning district and not under a Williamson Act contract. 2 of those are very small quarries in the Covelo area where it would be highly unlikely that processing facilities would go in. And the one site that is potentially feasible is the Blue Ridge Rock Quarry down near the Sonoma County line near Cloverdale, and that is assessed in the EIR, what the potential effects if that were to happen. And then, as I said, we looked at 7 alternatives, and as required, we looked at the no project alternative, which is, as usually the case, is the environmentally superior alternative. We looked at an alternative that was the quarry only, the quarry and a concrete plant, the quarry, a concrete plant, and a temporary asphalt facility that would only be allowed to operate for 5 years. A mitigated project, which had a 20-year time limit for the permit and all the EIR mitigation measures, and only allowed operations for 20 nights a year. A reduced project that only had a 30-year permit and capped the production at 75,000 cubic yards a year, which is what it currently is. And then we looked at alternative locations and determined that it was there wasn't really a suitable one that would meet the objectives of the project. But if you decided to segment the project and say we don't want a temporary an asphalt plant here, then you would be essentially selecting one of these other alternatives that gets rid of the asphalt plant, if that was your choice, or the concrete plant. But we do have a full discussion in there of potential other sites where asphalt facilities could occur. So that's a brief summary.
Okay, questions from the board to the staff? Questions from the board in regards to the draft EIR or comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll move to public discussion. Invite public comment on this issue. I have 23 speaker cards before us. If you intend to speak, please fill out one of these very colorful sheets in the back. Gives me a name and information of who you are so I can keep you in order. I'm going to take the speakers as they were presented to me in order. There were a couple of speakers that asked to speak at specific times. They had to leave, so I've shuffled those forward, giving them the ability to do so. I will ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes.